Hello guys and welcome to my art studio. Today we are going to paint the flower that we took a vote on here on YouTube. And it's a flower I found on one of the trees that was blooming, and it's quite pretty. But only 5 of you voted for it, so I was wondering if all of you know how to access these votes. And it's like this, that if you want to see when I put up a vote or some information, if you want to see that wall, you can call it, then you have to access YouTube from a telephone or from a computer. But if you access from an iPad, you can't see these votes. I just want to let you know if you want to participate in the votes I put up sometimes of what we're going to paint or something like that. Or what you would prefer, different kinds of flowers or whatever it can be. So if you want to participate in this, please keep an eye on your phone to the YouTube. And you have to hit the notification bell underneath here if you want to get a notice when I put up new videos and votes and stuff like that. But let's get on with the painting. The first thing I do is to sketch in the flowers on my piece of paper. This is a square piece of paper that I'm using today. And I just take my time with the sketch and get in as many details as I think is necessary to make a good painting. And I've sped up the video a little bit because else it will take far too long. And with the background I'm going to use on this painting, I want to mask out the flowers so that I have free hands to do what I like in the background. And I have found an old brush that I dip in water and then in soap, and then I dip it in the masking fluid afterwards. This will help prevent that the masking fluid will stick or ruin the brush too much. So it's a little tip for you there. And yeah, I take my time with the masking fluid, and of course I have to wait till everything is completely dry before I can begin on the background. But now it's dry and it's looking like this. Now I have pre-mixed some colors, and it's Perylene green, olive green, and Paynes Grey. Then I find my big brush. I think it's a number 12. It's many years old, but still going strong. And I wet the background to begin with, because I'm going to work wet in wet. And then I start with the Perylene green and just put it randomly on the paper. Then I go in with some of the Paynes Grey. And I really want it to be very dark around the flowers, because the flowers are white and the color in the background will help define the edges of the flower. And here I'm just making sure that my masking tape is completely sticking to the paper, because I would like to have a nice clean white edge afterwards. And then I tip my board as well and allow the paint to run down the paper. And I have a little paper towel here to help soak up any of the water. And this method of making a background. It gives a very smooth and clean background without any hard edges everywhere. So I really like this method, even though it takes a little bit of time to mask out all the flowers. And yeah, but I think it's worth the while. And here I'm going in with the olive green. It could also be a sap green, whatever green you have in your watercolor palette. And the Perylene green, I think you can mix with, if you have a sap green and a Paynes Grey. If you mix that, I think you get a similar color. And now I take my water bottle spray and then I spray the paper just to get some more effect. And then I tip my board around just to make everything flow. This just gives the best background in my opinion. And I also put in some splatter just to see how that looks. And if I don't like the result, I can always go in with some more colors. As long as the paper is wet, you can do almost anything. You have to be careful if the paper begins to dry, because then you will get hard edges, and that's what we are trying not to get in this way. So, and I'm thinking I'm pleased with the results, and now everything is dry. So now I have to remove all the masking tape, and I use my finger to do the job. I must admit my not masking tape, but masking fluid. I have to remove this, and I must admit that my masking fluid is a little bit old, so I could see when I removed the masking fluid that the paper were yellow underneath, and I was not very pleased with that. So I decided that in the places where I was going to keep the paper white, I would use buff titanium instead to cover up some of the yellow color. So, and now I have pre-mixed some colors as well that I'm going to use in the painting, and they are Naples yellow and mixed with Paynes Grey, and it's Dioxazine purple also mixed with Paynes Grey, and green gold color and quinacridone gold I'm going to use as well. And I begin with the Naples yellow mix with the Paynes Grey, and I put in the color where I see the white in the flowers on the reference photo. And here where I go around the stems, I'm very careful not to paint the stems. So you have to paint around the stems. It's very important because we want to keep these areas as white as possible. So because now we have removed all the masking fluid, so we have to prevent painting on that. And now I'm working on the stamens of the flower, and I'm going in with the quinacridone gold. And afterwards I will go in with some burnt sienna as well. And I continue now to work on the petals of the flower. And I wet the area and then I drop in the color. And here I'm working on a shadow area, as you can see on the reference photo as well. And I put paint along the edge of the flower and allow the paint to flow into the petal. And then I take a damp brush and even out if I want things to be more smooth or something like that. And here I'm going in with the purple mix along the stamens to make them pop. And I'm very careful that I don't paint on the stamens themselves, but just around them. And it's good to have a nice pointy brush to do that. And then I just continue to work on the petals of the flower. Now I'm working in the middle of the flower, putting in the yellow colors. And I'm using green gold here. It's a very light green yellow color. And I'm also using some quinacridone gold and also some sap green. The sap green I use where I see there are some shadows in the middle of the flower. And here I'm working on some more shadow areas on this petal of the flower. And here I put in some burnt sienna on the stems. And when I paint like this, I always work wet in wet. So I wet the area that I'm going to paint, and then afterwards I drop in the paint. And usually when I paint petals on flowers, I put the paint along the edge and allow it to flow into the petal. That gives a very nice smooth effect in my opinion. And I'm always making sure that the area I'm painting is not close to another wet area so that the paints won't flow together. Because I want there to be hard edges on the petals next to each other, so that you in that way define the edges of the petal. So that's quite important. And also it's important to make the edges a bit darker than the middle of the petal. And this is because there's usually some shadow area from the other petals lying up to each petal. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. So, but yeah, it's to define the edges of the petals. So it's quite important. But I'm really convinced that the best way to paint petals in most cases is to wet the area you're painting and then drop in the color. And here I have first painted with the buff titanium, but now I'm going to put in the shadow area. And here I'm not working that much with Inuit. Now I'm putting in the color. It's because I want them in certain places and I want full control. So I put in the color, wet on dry, and then afterwards I come in with a damp brush and even out the edges and sort of blend everything together so that it looks nice and smooth. And now I'm going to paint the stamens here again, and I go in with a very dark mix of the purple color. It's the Dioxazine purple and Paynes Grey. And I make sure that I leave some of the white, but I'm also keen on making some dark lines so you can really see the stamens here. So even though they are not that strong on the reference photo, I chose to make them strong in my painting so that they will be more visible. So yeah, that's an artist's decision. So yeah. And here I make sure everything is dry, and then I go in with my rubber and remove all the pencil lines because I don't want them to show in the painting. And then I go in with a very light mix. And I'm painting the stamens here as well. And again here I'm going in with a very dark mix of the purple, and I'm painting next to the stamens. So along the edge, and I do that to prevent the white of the stamen. So here I'm not painting lines like I did with the other flower, but I'm painting next to the sides of the stamens, and that will make the white pop in the painting. I think it's quite visible now, and here I'm doing the same thing with the third flower, but here I'm using a green color to help define the stamens. And here I found a smaller brush that is not as pointy as the others, and I'm just going in with some clean water on the brush and blending some edges, because there were some places in the painting that I felt there were too many hard edges. So I just try to blend it a little bit with a damp brush. And on some papers this works great, and on other papers it's not working very great. So yeah, you got to know your watercolor paper. So, but yeah, be careful not to ruin your paper, because that will be sad if you did that at this point, if you've gotten this far. So, and I'm just putting in the last details here and there, putting in some darker colors, making definition. And if there are places where the edges are sort of disappeared, I go in and define the edges with some dark colors, as you see I'm doing here. I really want every petal of the flower to be seen and clearly defined. And yay! Now it's time to remove the masking tape, and I'm using my hairdryer to do the job, because then it won't tear the paper. I really think this is the best tip I ever got. So I'm almost telling it in all my videos. So here is the finished result. But next day I was like, I think there was missing some of that purple color in the background. It's hard to put words on, but I felt like I needed that color to be in the background as well. So I went in with a damp brush first and wet the paper, and then I dropped in some of this purple color. as you can see here. And I don't do it all over the paper, just in certain places. And yeah, now we have almost come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. See you again later. Bye.